I'm gonna read 8 hours a day for the next 7 days. In the past, I've read 8 hours a day for puny little business weeks, but why stop there when I can throw in my weekend? Why stop there when instead of reading as a full-time job, I can let it consume my life? She's driven or whatever. I'll have a stopwatch going that will be paused every time I take a break from my books. I love to read, and who's heard of overconsumption? Not me. If y'all like, comment, and subscribe, I'll do it for a month next time. After an hour and 46 minutes, I'm just over 100 pages into Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is my very first paranormal romance, and it's between a vampire and a werewolf. In this book, there is an arranged marriage between the two characters to sort of set an alliance between the vampires and the werewolves. The vampires and the werewolves are enemies, but vampires are becoming extinct, which is obviously not good. The vampires really need the werewolves to not kill them, so this alliance is very important to them. This book also has a little bit of mystery to it, so there's a lot of things driving the plot forward. I wasn't a fan of the first 30 pages of this book because I feel like it was a lot of info dumping, but the more I read, the more I like the book. Once you get past all the world building, I feel like it gets better because that's when the plot really starts. This is the 5th book by Ali Hazelwood that I'm reading, and I really do enjoy her writing, even if this is much different from her other books. She adds a lot of personality to the characters, and I really enjoy that, so I'm gonna keep reading. I still have over 6 hours left, so I most definitely will be finishing this book today. What's wrong with that? What? What is going on? I'm halfway through day 1, and I'm around 246 pages into Bride. I think this challenge is going to be harder this time around because in the past, I feel like I just spent all of my free time reading, and I don't do that anymore. If I just had 5 minutes to spare, I was picking up a book. I don't even read every day now, and I think Aaron from a year ago would be like, what? You did what? But I'm having a grand old time with this book. It is so good, so great. I love it. I like the characters, I like the humor, I like the conflict. So much about this book is just so good. Chef's kiss. Some parts of this book don't make the most sense to me, but I don't really care because I'm just reading and having a good time. It doesn't have to make sense. It's fiction. Based on what just happened in this book, there's another problem arising, which is kind of fun because there's yet another storyline to follow. There are so many fun little side plots going on, which, okay, they're not fun. It's kind of serious, but it's fun to me. Anyway, I have 4 more hours and I really want my questions to be answered, so I better get reading. Am I right? I knew it! I knew it! Everybody's bringing this up. I've seen so many people talk about this and I don't understand why. After 5 hours and 50 minutes, I did finish Bride, and I didn't like the ending. I felt wildly uncomfortable reading about knots. I don't know how I wanted it to end, but I just didn't like the last 100 pages. I wasn't a fan. You know, it's not awful, but I'm not like, oh, that was a really good ending. I'm like, oh, ugh. It's really tanking the rating for me. That's the last thing in my mind, and that's what I'm going to associate this book with, even though there was a lot that I was entertained by. I also feel like I would be embarrassed to be like reading this in public if someone were to ask me like, oh, what's the book you're reading about? And I'd be like, Marriage of Convenience Between a Vampire and a Werewolf. I'm Harry Styles, and I don't know why you would find that embarrassing. I'm going to rate it 3 stars because I would recommend this to people that are like into werewolves and vampires and all that jazz. Like, I would recommend it for people that like that, and I did like a lot of it. The next book I'm starting is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I really don't know much about this book. It's a YA murder mystery, I think. I also think this book gives off like dark academia, and I would read the back and give you like a little bit of a synopsis, but I don't want to. Only 2 hours left of day 1. Okay. Ugh. The 8 hours are up for today, and I am 122 pages into Truly Devious. I'm not usually drawn to like mysteries or thrillers, but I'm really liking this book, and I'm so happy I gave it a chance. It makes me want to read Agatha Christie books, which I've never really been drawn to those before, but they sound amazing in this. Our main character Stevie is starting school at a very famous private school. It's famous because it was built by a filthy rich man in the 1930s, and then right after it opened, like, his family was kidnapped and potentially murdered. It appears to be a cold case. No one really knows who did it, but Stevie's gonna come in and she's probably gonna solve it. This is the first book in a trilogy, so I don't know how much gets wrapped up in this book, but I am very intrigued. What I'm really enjoying is that this has like a dual timeline to it. We have the timeline of Stevie at the school in present day, and then we have a timeline of the 1930s and what happened on that night and potentially the days following. I'm actually like really enjoying the 1930s parts. I think they're so interesting and fun to read. Then there's also the modern day aspect, which can be very engaging. I do have to say, I think I prefer the 1930s over the modern day, but I think that's because I'm still at the beginning of the book and like school hasn't even started yet and she hasn't really begun cracking the case yet. I did finish my 8 hours later in the day than I had initially planned, but it's okay because I got it done. I truly think this book makes the time go by fast because it is a very engaging story. I don't really have too much more to add. I feel like day 1 is always pretty easy, but by the end of the week, I'm usually like, okay, I'm ready for this to end. But this book makes me excited for day 2. Explained. My goodness. Hey, like exactly at the 4-hour mark. Okay, so Truly Devious. I'm gonna rate it 4 stars. I really like the mysteries. I really like the setting. I think the flashbacks are just incredible. I was a really big fan about reading about the 1930s, which I feel like that's an era I don't usually care about, but I thought it was so interesting and well done in this book. There is a little bit of romance in this book, but I think it falls kind of flat. I didn't really care for it, but I liked everything else. And I think book 2 is supposed to like focus on the romance more, which I'm not like thrilled about, but like I'll definitely read it. Now I need to decide which book to read next. I have 2 books in mind and they're like fairly different, and I really don't know which one I'm in the mood for. The 2 books I'm thinking about reading next are A Taste of Poison and Heartless. This is a cowboy romance, and this is a fae retelling of Snow White. I think this is gonna take slightly more brain power than this, and I feel like Truly Devious had me thinking and on my toes, so I don't know if I just want to go for like, you know, like cowboy, single dad, whoo! Or do I want to read like a fairy tale? I think I'm going to choose Heartless. I believe this is the 2nd book in the Chestnut Spring series. I've read Powerless, which is the 3rd book, and that's the only one I've read in the series, and now I'm going back and reading the 2nd book because I saw people say that you should read this book if you liked the vibe of the movie Twisters, and obviously I liked the vibe of the movie Twisters. I also asked for book recommendations with single dads on my Instagram, and someone said this, so we're going with this.
So
5 hours and 30 minutes into the day, and I'm just over 100 pages into Heartless. I feel like the first 100 pages kind of flew by. I really like Elsie Silver's writing. Cade is a single grumpy dad who runs a ranch, and I think this is actually, it is the third time I've read these exact same tropes. It's kind of the cliche, he needs a nanny, he doesn't like the nanny that he gets, but he's stuck with her. And of course, it's a romance book between the two. It's been a fun read so far, but I feel like I'm still like at the very beginning of the story and not much has really happened yet. Our other main character, Willa, is one of the only tomboys in the town apparently. A lot of the girls are very feminine and they like to knit, and she doesn't like to knit. So of course, Cowboy Cade is attracted to that. Now I'm gonna read about cowboys.
What them pretty little lips gonna do to me, baby? But every single time that I come around, it seems you got another man trying to keep you down, baby. Well, you might think you're driving me insane, but I made the game that you're trying to play. You know, I think maybe
it's getting juicy. It's getting juicy. You tell him.
I've been around long enough to know some things you can't take back. Some things you just got to let go. Yes. Well, hell, I got Sammy on the phone.
Why do you have to call her woman? That's so annoying. So like half of that was sweet, half of that was something.
Well, you might think you drive me insane. I made the game that you're trying to play. You know I think
8 hours is up. I'm 300 pages into Heartless, and while something eventful just happened, I feel like before that I was getting a little bored. Don't get me wrong, I'm liking the book and the story, but it just feels like it's being stretched out a little longer than it needs to be. I don't have too many complaints about this book. I think it's a good book. I fear for the 150 pages I still have left, if I'm already thinking that it's like being stretched out a little bit, it's a little long. Like, I feel like I don't usually complain about romance books being long because I don't always mind it, but this book isn't even that long, but it just feels long. But I don't know if that's also because I've just been like looking at a book for so long that I'm like, oh, that's a lot of reading. I have a feeling I know exactly how this is. As I was saying, I feel like I know exactly how this is going to end, but I feel like that's because I've read the tropes before and because it's a romance book. I mean, you can only end a romance book in so many different ways. Anyway, I know how it's going to end, but I don't really care. I feel like I'm going to enjoy it anyway. I'm really tired and I feel like my brain's not working all the way. I am excited to finish this book even though I know how it's going to end. See ya on day 3. This makes me miss like sleepovers with my grandparents. This is so sweet. I really wanted to read this outside so I could feel like I'm in the country. Do they mean like Calgary, Canada? This takes place in Canada? I saw Tate McRae like 4 days ago. She has a song called Calgary because she's from Calgary. I would have thought they would have said like A in here because Miss Tate, love her. She sounded real Canadian, let me tell you. What the heck? 1.5% of my viewers are from Canada. Thank you, Canadians. Appreciate you. Okay, you're at a children's party. That's what I'm saying. I was so confident I knew how this book was gonna end, but I did not see this coming at all. Oh, I read that wrong. I'm an hour and 38 minutes into day 3 and I just finished Heartless by Elsie Silver. I liked this book. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I think some parts were like a little long and a little stretched out, but I liked it, so I don't care that much. It's not that big of a complaint. It was a fun little cutie cowboy rom-com with like a little bit of like serious topics mixed in, but it's definitely not the most serious thing I've read. It's such a solid book, and there is a quote at the beginning that says, "Sometimes good things fall apart so better things can fall together." Marilyn Monroe. The quote matches the book so perfectly, and I feel like that's just something that like a lot of people might need to hear. I really love the family aspect in these books and how there's like group chats in here, and you get to read how everybody texts, and I really like how their like personalities shine through in these group chats. Reading about close-knit families is just so fun and heartwarming. Moving on, I'm gonna read A Taste of Poison, which is a Fae Snow White retelling. This is a part of the Entangled with Fae series, which is a series of interconnected standalones. So of course you can go into this book without reading the others, but I have read Heart of the Raven Prince and Kiss of the Selkie. I rated Heart of the Raven Prince 3.5 stars and Kiss of the Selkie 5 stars. I loved Kiss of the Selkie, and I really hope I love A Taste of Poison, because that would be great if this was a 5-star read. I don't know if it will be or not, though. I feel like I tend to read Sandra Odette's writing at a slower pace, but like I have plenty of time to read this, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm gonna get reading. I love fairy tales so much, so I'm like actually kind of excited. It's been almost an hour, and I'm only like 37 pages in. It's just that I read her writing very slow. My room is always so cold, and I'm sitting on a heated blanket, and then the chair is like so comfy, and it's like inviting me for a nap. I need to switch gears or I will fall asleep, but I don't really want to leave my chair. So I'm thinking I need to read like something more fast-paced. So I'm going to read another book, and as soon as I finish it, I'm going to read this. Like, I'm going to come back to this. The other book is going to be The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, because I just watched the Britney episode of Glee, and my parents were talking about her story, but I felt like left out because I didn't know anything. Anyway, now I'm going to read my mom's book. This is hers. Let's get reading and not sleeping. I made it to the 4-hour mark, and it is 5 o'clock. The times I've done this in the past, I would reach like the 4-hour mark at like 12:30 or 1. I think it's because I'm not really putting myself in as much as a time crunch as I did in the past, because I always wanted to like finish my day by 5 p.m. That was always the goal. I want to try and start like reading earlier tomorrow, but we'll see if that actually happens. Anyway, I am 100 pages into The Woman in Me. It's not really my place to like judge someone else's life story, but I can very much judge the writing. I think the writing is very simple, and it's kind of like the bones of the situation, as if someone were orally telling a story. It sort of lacks detail, but I feel like she has so much she wants to say that there's probably like a reason behind that. Like, I really don't know. I'm having a hard time putting it into words. I feel like sometimes she bears all this emotion and tells us so much, and other times it's just like, oh yeah, I went here and did that. I went here and did that. I feel like there is value in reading this because she has had like such a hectic life, and she does have like a little bit of wisdom to share. This feels like it's just like the bones of her life, and obviously she's not going to tell us everything about her life. I am getting through it quickly, but I'm not going to say it's like a fast and easy read. Like, I feel like that's insensitive. When it comes to the simple writing, I think it is very much like it is how it is. There's no deeper meaning into what I say. The writing for sure is not for everyone. I know people talk about this book and they're like, oh yeah, like that writing actually isn't great. A lot of the events in here are out of order, and I just don't really understand why. I've noticed there would be like a paragraph of like September from 2001, and then she's going back to January of 2001, and then she's going to March of 2001. In my head, it would have made more sense to like make the story linear. I also feel the lack of detail in some ways can be holding like the book back a little bit. I feel like sometimes we need a little more detail, but I also feel like this book is supposed to be meant as like a conversation with someone rather than a book. It's a book. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like books usually have more detail than like oral stories, and this feels like an oral story. Hopefully what I said made sense. I don't even know. I'm gonna continue to read though. The book is short. If I don't finish this tonight, I will not be pleased with myself.
She's the type who will get what she wants, doesn't hide. Always out in the sun, and it kills me slowly. Seeing her pass me by in the city of dreams. Wish that
I didn't know that.
had the power in me.
I didn't know the majority of what happened in this book, but I didn't know that. So much of what is talked about in this book I didn't know happened. I mean, like a lot of people, obviously. It was like, there were so many things that no one knew, but I mean, like, the things that she talks about that the public knew, I didn't know about it because it either happened before I was born, or the majority of this, like, happened when I was too young to really understand anything and too young to really care about the media and stars. It's very interesting learning so much about, like, pop culture even in this book. Like, I feel like Britney is such an icon. Like, I grew up dancing competitively, and when I was 10, I did a duet called It's Britney, and it was like a mashup of all her greatest hits. That's just my little connection to Britney Spears. I've also watched Glee close to 10 times, and, you know, the Britney episodes are iconic. Now I'm gonna get back to A Taste of Poison, and I really hope, like, I speed up the pace with reading this book, because I fear I'm gonna be, like, spending all day on this book, and I would rather that not happen. I still have, like, an hour and 40 minutes to go, so I stopped in the middle of a chapter, though. That was probably a stupid idea, but the chapters are kind of long. They're not that long. I'm being dramatic. No, it would have ended in, like, 8 pages, but that's a lot. Brittany's book is so serious, and this book is about fairies. We love a diverse reader. Anyway, this book is actually slightly darker than I thought it would be. Without giving you a synopsis of this book, she's at the Seven Sins Hotel, which has, like, like a building for each of the 7 sins. Sinful stuff happens in there. Day 3. I didn't know if I would. It was the last 30 minutes. I was like, oh, imagine if I was watching Love Island right now. It's an issue. It's an issue, honestly. I'm 120 pages into A Taste of Poison, and there's so much going on in this book. Bear with me with a synopsis. I will say the face-off in this series is kind of confusing and kind of took a while for me to catch on. So what I'm, like, about to say might not make the most sense. But our main character, Astrid Snow, has magic that makes her mirror back one's worst qualities. She has more enemies than friends. She's a mirror. Her face mirrors qualities of whoever is seeing her. They can be good qualities or they can be bad qualities. But this makes a lot of people dislike her, including her stepmother, who is convinced that she murdered her dad, aka the person married to the stepmom. And so the stepmom's like, I need to hire someone to you. So then Astrid is hiding at the Seven Sins Hotel. Then we have the huntsman who was sent by the queen to get Astrid's heart and bring it back to the queen. The thing about the huntsman is that he's a bear. He's like a werewolf, but it's like a were-bear. Yeah. Not gonna lie, parts of these books can get confusing, but I just loved Kiss of the Selkie so much that I'm gonna stick through and let my big brain work. I fear it's gonna take me, like, all day to finish this tomorrow, but we'll see. I like this book, but I fear it's not gonna hit as hard as Kiss of the Selkie, which I feel like a lot of books cannot hit that hard. I don't know why I liked it so much. I just did. I felt connected to it. I don't have a lot of thoughts going on up here. I feel like once it's like 10 o'clock, all of a sudden my brain turns off, and I feel like I cannot develop real thoughts and tell you anything more about a book. I really have nothing else going on up here, so I'll see you in the morning. Predicted this would happen, but then when I first read something else, I was like, oh wait, no, I was wrong. He's doing this instead, and no, my original prediction was correct. Okay. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm only just now making this connection. She's a mirror, magic mirror. Duh. Oh, I feel stupid. I'm just over 4 hours into the day and I just finished A Taste of Poison. Golly gee. I think I'm gonna rate it 4 stars. It was good. I had fun reading it. There's like this whimsical vibe to something that's slightly darker that I like the world. I finished book 5 and I have no idea what I want book 6 to be. I don't know if I'm in the mood for more fantasy or if I want romance or if I want a mystery. Like, what do I want? What do I want? General fiction? I have no idea. Should I pick up a book I'm in the middle of already? Because I'm in the middle of several books right now that I'm just like, oh, I'll finish it later. And then it's later. I'm 145 pages into the first Bridgerton book. Could do that. Or I'm also over halfway through Arch Enemies. TBR jar that I made a year and a half ago. I don't know. This is a book with a pretty cover / the best cover. I feel like I need to read this. I just need to finish Bridgerton, right? Yeah, we're gonna finish Bridgerton today. Or the first one, The Duke and I. So like 7 more books. I don't know if I'm in the mood for it though. I'm gonna force myself, okay? We're gonna read it anyway. After reading 3 pages of Bridgerton, I decided I wanted to read The Gracier instead. This is like a dystopian book. It's one of my closest friend's favorite book, and I bought it with her like well over a year ago. The time has come, and I'm gonna read it. Guys, I don't know what to do. This is the time. I still have like 3 hours left for today, and I cannot focus on this book. Like, I was reading it, and I just noticed myself zoning out multiple times. I'm 36 pages in. I probably zoned out 36 times. It's making it real hard on me, and I feel like I'm gonna love this book when I actually sit down and read it because I love the Hunger Games. And on the back, this says it's a speculative YA thriller in the vein of the Hunger Games and The Power. It literally says the Hunger Games on the back. Anyway, I can't focus on it right now, and I feel bad because I already told my friend that I was reading it, but I'm sorry, Sarah. Trying to think of books that are gonna draw me in. I think maybe a contemporary romance by a comfort author. I have 2 options here. I have Throttled by Lauren Asher and Wherever You Are by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. This is a spin-off of the Addicted series, and I've made that series my entire personality, so I feel like I need to not talk about that, and I need to try something new. But this is by an author that I love, love, love. I'm trying this out. If I can't focus, we're going to Kristen Becker-Ritchie. Saw it coming, but I love it anyway. I don't care.
I know sometimes life can be tough, and you feel like you just had enough.
I think we're on day 4. Yeah, day 4. Done. I'm 160 pages into Throttled by Miss Lauren Asher. I'm feeling very judgmental towards something in this book, and I want to check Goodreads to see if other people are thinking the same thing. Crazy that no one else is mentioning this. The brother-sister relationship is weird. What siblings are that close? Like, it's weird. They don't fight. What siblings don't fight? This is weird. Like, the age gap with these siblings are similar to the age gap I have with my brother. So in 3 years, I don't see us acting like that. I'm sorry. I expect him to still be like kind of mean. I think the family dynamic as a whole on Maya's side, I just kind of see as unrealistic. That a family can be that close and love each other that much. Our main character, Maya's brother, is an F1 driver who was just signed to a new team. Noah is already on the team that her brother has just signed to. Noah and the brother don't like each other. More so, Noah doesn't like the brother because the brother made Noah crash and lose. And it could have been fatal. Like, it wasn't, but it could have been. Forbidden romance, teehee. So, yeah. This is Lauren Asher's debut book. I have read 5 of her other books. And I have to say, this one's not my favorite. While I still really like the writing, I feel like there's just some aspects that I'm like, that's a little cheesy. I do, for the most part, really like this book. I like the setting. I think the story's fun. I like the writing. It's just that every time, like, her family is brought up, I don't know why, I just cringe. I'm just like, ugh. Anyway, see you tomorrow when I finish this book, and then I have no idea what I'm picking up after.
Don't wanna be a one-man woman. Got me stranded like a boat in the sand. Just the thought of not spreading my wings drives
He's so charming.
crazy. Dressing up, fixing my strut. Always prepared, you never know who.
I just finished Throttled. I'm 3 hours into the day. I think this is a 3.25 star read. I liked the couple in the story as a whole, but I think Lauren Asher's writing has just, like, improved so much since her debut book, which she's come out with, like, what, 9? I actually liked all the F1 talk. I didn't think I would, but I was into it. I mean, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm invested. I am excited for the next book because it's about a couple we see a lot in this book, so I'm like, oh, wait, like, maybe I'll read Collided soon. I mean, I liked this book, but some of the conversations did make me cringe, so that's why it's sitting at a 3.25. Now I have to figure out what the next book I want to read is. I brought a bag full of books here to, like, choose from, and then I have Arch Enemies because I am in the middle of it. These are, like, the dystopian fantasy options. I think they're all also YA. That's fun. Romance options are Out on a Limb, Wherever You Are, and Part of Your World. This has become quite the challenge, just like picking up books. I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna like tell you a book and then I'm probably gonna switch it. I might start with this. If I do, I'll give you a synopsis on Defy the Night. I don't think of the name. I'll give you a synopsis on Defy the Night later if this is what I choose to read. Stuck with it, and I'm now 100 pages into Defend the Dawn at 5 hours and 48 minutes. Since I read this book so long ago, I did look at an in-depth summary of it so that I would be like prepared to read this, you know, like I wouldn't be forgetting about certain things. And I just wanted a little refresher so that I wasn't completely lost going into this book and like I know everything that happened now. I'm all good. I'm all caught up. That being said, I do think Erin from December can give a better synopsis on Defy the Night than Erin from August. So here's Erin from December. So there is a very deadly fever going on that does not have a cure, but there is an elixir that can help the fever, and if consumed every day can help prevent the fever. But the problem is there's not enough for everybody. But our main character Tessa illegally makes more of the elixir and then gives it out to people in the middle of the night, so she's like the outlaw. So what she is doing is illegal because she is stealing the ingredients to make the elixir and then giving it out to people that the government has deemed like not really unworthy, but they're poor and only rich people get the elixir. And then our other main character is Prince Korik. So he has a lot of responsibilities at the moment to try to like keep people in order, and he's attempting to prevent a rebellion at the moment. Now, I believe this book is Enemies to Lovers, but I don't know if it's any good or not yet because like the characters haven't come face to face yet. But don't you worry, I'll keep reading and I'll let you know if this Enemies to Lovers is really Enemies to Lovering. She did such a good job. I haven't gone back and watched the video, so I don't know if I did a good job or not. Anyway, I really liked Defy the Night. The first 100 pages of Defend the Dawn, little bit boring. The majority of what I've read so far in this book is just like politics, which I can acknowledge is very important to the plot. Like, I get it. I assume it's here to like set up the plot for the rest of the book. Like, I understand that. But it's been a slow start. It's been kind of boring. Like, I feel like this was just so entertaining the whole way through the book. And then I'm like, oh, wait. Okay. I really just hope that this book isn't like a transition book between the first book and the third book. Like, I really hope important things and fun things to read about happen in this book. I feel like sometimes within fantasy series they have these like whole dedicated books where like nothing happens and it's just sort of there as a transition into whatever they want to happen next. By they, I of course mean the author. I just really hope this doesn't serve as that. There has been like new things introduced already for a new plot, and I could see it going two ways. Either it's gonna be like so much fun and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is like High School Musical 2. Or it's gonna be, wow, that was like really disappointing. Like, that's it? Like, that's all they did and nothing really happened? It was just like this one cliffhanger at the end and that's it? Without giving away too much, there is a new character, and I hope he is our Finnick. If he's not like Finnick, I don't want him. I feel like I'm talking a lot of smack for someone who's not even a fourth of the way through the book, but I still have like over 2 hours to read tonight. So let's make an even further dent. 8 hours, I made it. I'm like halfway through the book. I'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm so tired, I just want to sleep.
But at some point we messed up, right, sugar? And when we fight, no one wants to stop. And as time goes by, I wonder, can we reverse the fall?
Here is my formal apology for calling this book boring, because I don't think it's boring now. I feel like my mindset has like completely flipped. I absolutely adore this book. I'm 2 hours and 9 minutes into reading at page 325. I mean, this book is YA fantasy, and I feel like when I go into YA fantasy, I'm just like, oh, I'm here to be entertained, you know, like just do what you have to do to keep me entertained. And I viewed a literary masterpiece as boring, but now I see it for so much more. Like an English teacher going in being like, oh wait, if you look deeper into this, I think this is good. As of right now, I'm so intrigued on why the characters think the way they think and why they do the things that they do. I don't know if I'm like a little crazy and no one else thinks this, but parts of this book like feel like literary fiction almost. While there's not a lot of action, there is a lot of tension, and it feels almost like mature for YA. While this book is 100% young adult and follows all of those guidelines, I feel like I wouldn't really find it all that interesting at that age. There's a lot of verbal interactions and thoughts that I didn't think would be as interesting as they are. I really like the characters and the way that they think, and I appreciate everything that I said was boring before, because I don't think it's boring anymore. Politics tend to be one of my least favorite parts of like any fantasy book, but it's just so well done in this series that I'm like, oh, wait, like, there have also been plenty of moments of like mystery in these first two books where I'm like, this is so predictable, I know exactly what's gonna happen, and then I'm wrong. Miss Bridget Kemmerer leaves so many hints and clues that like things are gonna be the way that they are, and I never pick up on them. Never. Until like I read like a reveal and then I'm like, oh, yeah, wait, this happened and that happened and that happened. And I feel like rereading, I would pick it up right away and be like, oh, this is so obvious. But the first time around, I don't see any of it coming. Anyway, I still have over 6 hours to read today, and I have a hair appointment, so I really need to get busy.
Can we go back to that place? 'Cause I never wanted you to leave. Looking back on our past, I don't wanna be just another memory.
I'm approaching 4 hours and I just finished Defend the Dawn. The ending of this book is so crazy. It definitely leaves you wanting to read the third book right away. I don't feel very strongly about how I'm gonna rate this. I feel like usually when I finish a book, I'm like, yes. My head and my heart are telling me this is the rating. But I don't feel very strong about this at all. I did really like it, and I feel like I should give it 4 stars, but I feel like I've also rated too many books in this video 4 stars, which that's kind of ridiculous, like me even bringing that up, but I feel like I've just picked out so many great books for this video. That low-key reminds me of when you're doing like a multiple choice test and like the answer is the same letter over and over and over again. I really wanted to pick up a romance book next, and so these are my only options for romance books that I brought home, and I think I'm gonna go with Out on a Limb because it's by an author I've never read before, and I want to try something new. Anyway, I still have over 4 hours left to read, so I better get started. This is so pretty. Yesterday ended up being the hardest day by far. During the day, I wasn't as productive as I should have been, and then when I was ready to sleep, I still had 2.5 hours to go. Those 2.5 hours felt like an eternity. I'm just so over this 8-hour thing. I didn't think 7 days would be that much harder than 5 days, but it is. The first couple of days are light work, and then it just gets harder and harder as the days go on. That being said, I think reading a lot is great, but reading too much is very much a thing. I feel like I'm not giving this book a fair chance at all. I think it might be like right book, wrong time. I don't know. This book is so funny, and it's so lovely, but I'm still reading it going, oh. Yeah, whatever. These two characters bond over limb differences because her hand is like not fully developed and he has a prosthetic leg. They met at a party, they have a one-night stand. She ends up pregnant. So they end up getting to know each other like throughout her pregnancy. I really need to start my 8 hours for today, so I'm not gonna talk anymore about this right now. See, this is so funny. Why don't I care? I'm at the 1 hour 42 minute mark and I just finished Out on a Limb. This book is just so sweet and it's so emotional. I really like the ending and how everything played out in the whole entire story. I'm in a much better mood now, and believe it or not, I'm like happy to be reading again. This is crazy. I just keep switching up. I kind of feel bad that I wasn't super engaged while reading this book because it wasn't the book's fault at all. It was like all me. But because I was feeling this way, I don't really know how to rate this, so I'm gonna like sit on my thoughts, I think, for a little while. But I definitely would recommend reading this book. It has a different cover now because it was published. My battery died. Anyway, I'm having trouble like picking which book I should read next, like if I should do Part of Your World or if I should do Arch Enemies. I keep bringing up this book and then not reading it, but it's okay. It'll happen at some point. I'm gonna read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Over 100 pages into Part of Your World. And I'm 3 hours and 31 minutes into the last day of this challenge. This book is about a romance between two characters who on paper you wouldn't really think are compatible. He's a 28-year-old small-town country boy with like a pet goat, and she is a 37-year-old city girl that is fairly wealthy. They have fairly different lifestyles, but they seem to just like mesh really well together. Now that is a very surface level like description of this book because Miss Abby Jimenez likes to add like a lot of depth to her characters. She always writes these super cutesy, funny, and nice characters that you're rooting for, but then they always have like another challenge ahead of them, or like lingering challenges from the past that they still need to work through. I really like that in a book. I feel like a book that can make you feel a lot usually tends to be good. I better go read about that now so I'm not staying up way past my bedtime tonight. Just under an hour left of reading, but for right now I just want to talk about this book because it's absolutely incredible. I really liked this book, and this is the third book in this series, but they're like interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read all the books to read this one. I wish I would have read this first. Like, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh. Yeah, no, I definitely should have read this first because I think I would have looked at some of the characters in this differently. This was so good. Like, I'm debating 5 stars. A part of me is like, 4.75, but then every time I see people rate something 4.75, I'm just like, round up. Why can't you just give it the 5 stars? But like, no, this gives me that 5-star feeling, I think. But I also don't know if I'm just like super happy that I finished this book and then like tomorrow morning I'm gonna be like, oh, yeah, no, that was a 4.75. This book was so much more emotional than I thought it would be. There were topics that I did not expect to be brought up at all, but they're so important to read and to learn from. So I do have less than an hour left, and I thought the only book that I even have like the slightest chance at finishing would be like Heartstopper Volume 2. So I did check it out from the library. I don't have my Kindle on me, so I will have to read it on my phone, but like, that's fine. We only have like an hour left. I'm finally done filming this video. I just finished Heartstopper Volume 2. It is so sweet. It is so cute. The Heartstopper series is basically just about two boys falling in love, but Nick kind of struggles with like knowing how he feels. Anyway, I've read 10 books this week, which they're not all short, so I'm like really proud of myself. Like I got through a lot. That was so much reading, and I was so over it because I was choosing reading over sleep, and it's not good for me. Not good for me at all. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you would like, comment, subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. I will see you at some point or another. Bye!